Hi everybody, I might not quite be ready to return full time yet. There's still a long way for me to go to get fully better. However, I am ready to do today's video for you. So sit back and enjoy. Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. So if I was to say corporations and taxes, the likelihood is a lot of us would just scoff. We hear stories all the time about how massive companies, particularly those like Starbucks, Amazon, etc., avoid tax and barely pay any tax, if any tax at all. But when it really hits home is when it strikes an industry that you yourself are involved with, or you yourself certainly have a hand in. And then when it hits home even further is when you look at how a company actually behaves, treats its employees, treats its customers, and then suddenly we have something like we're going to have today. So this came out, and this is talking about 60 most profitable Fortune 500 companies who avoided all federal income in 2018. And not only did they avoid paying tax, but many of them got tax rebates, which means money back, tax breaks, all this kind of stuff. And it's going to come as absolutely no surprise whatsoever where we see our friendly neighborhood, and when I say friendly neighborhood, I mean complete and utter scumbags, Activision Blizzard, topping this list here with a US income last year of, or 2018 I really should say, of $447 million. And how much did they pay in federal tax? Minus 228 million. Minus. Not positive, minus. Making them have an effective tax rate of minus 51%. So what that in essence means is I pay more tax myself. You do too. As a sole trader or wherever you work in your job, you pay more tax than Activision Blizzard does. A multi-billion-dollar company that last year announced a record year, a historic year, record-breaking. And then, of course, they followed that up by sacking nearly 800 people. So not only did they announce a record-breaking year, not only did they follow it up by sacking 800 people, they didn't pay a single nickel in tax to the federal government in America. So how does this actually work? How does this actually operate? Because in America, I believe on the 15th of February, you had your tax cut off. Here in the UK, it's the 31st of January for us for the previous year. So the way that it operates for somebody like me, for example, is I'm classed as a sole trader. I don't have any other employees. HeelvsBabyface is solely myself. So when I come to doing my taxes, it's a relatively simple, when I say relatively, it's a relatively simple process in as much as I see where my sources of income are coming from. So I declare my YouTube ad revenue money. I declare my Twitch subscription money. I declare my Twitch donation money, tip money, whichever way you want to call it. And then if I have made any merchandise sales, etc., from third-party sites like Teespring or whatever, I get an accumulation of all those, and I declare them as well. So that's how somebody like myself declares my taxes. I then send that off to my respective government, and then they send me a letter back saying, right, this is the rate that you're going to be taxed on, and this is how much you're going to be taxed. So I'm kind of making it a little bit more simple, but that is in essence how it works. And then I pay what is owed to the taxman. And so the way that a corporation deals with it is no, they can't have any, because I got to stop again. You have to understand, people. Although it's a groan when we pay taxes, yeah. Ugh, I got to pay taxes. Ugh, it's a pain in the ass. Ugh, it's up this year. Ugh, whatever it may be, and it's a groan and it's a moan. But when you pay your taxes are going towards the infrastructure of your country. You know, it's going towards health, it's going towards transportation, it's going towards education, it's going towards welfare, it's going towards, you know, everything which makes a company run, a country run. As much as we bemoan taxes, if there was no taxation coming in, countries would grind to a halt because there would be no money for anything because nobody would be paying. And it always feels like you as the little guy is the one who's being hit the hardest. You always feel it in your pocket. You work hard, you earn your money, and then when you see a big chunk of it get taken off, it can be very soul destroying. But at the same time, you have to understand, particularly here in the UK, you get sick, you get taken to hospital. I can relate to that recently. Then your national health care has been taken care of because of your national insurance tax. We have two taxes. We have our income tax, we have our national insurance tax. And your taxes are paid towards that. If you haven't paid those taxes, if you aren't paying taxes or contributing your taxes, things like this are what gets hit by funding and starts going down and down and down. So that's just the average Joe. So you imagine the huge corporations out there. And I know some of you may be finding this a very boring conversation, but you just imagine the huge corporations out there who take in hundreds upon hundreds of millions, or in Amazon's case, Amazon here, billions, who take in billions. And you think about the zero contribution they're making to the country. The zero contribution. They are not helping education, transportation, anything. They are not helping the infrastructure of the company. They are just pushing it towards their shareholders and themselves in bonuses. A lot of things getting writ off, like stock options. And we know how Blizzard have been loving their stock options. And that's where the bulk of the money goes to when Bobby Kotick and his group of scum, when they take their profits, you see the bulk of them is actually made up in stock options, something which can be written off now through tax. But if I scroll down from this article, how does it work? Well, this is showing how Activision Blizzard operate in a legal tax avoidance scam. This is how they do it. So take Activision Blizzard, known for such household games Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Guitar Hero. These blockbusters actually come to life in a basement on a tree-lined street in downtown Rotterdam, at least on paper. Here you see lies the headquarters of ATVI-CV, an Activision Blizzard subsidiary normally responsible for all the games the American company develops. A company that on paper has the IP. So the IP doesn't belong in the US with Activision Blizzard. No, they squirrel away the IP in a literally a basement in Holland. And so the IP doesn't relate to the US. So here's how it works in theory. A company pays tax in the country where it's incorporated. Now, suppose a copy of Guitar Hero was sold in France. You'd expect the revenue to go to Activision Blizzard in America, because that's where Activision Blizzard are. After all, that's where the company that makes the game is located. So that's where the profit should end up. In 2009, however, Activision assigned its intellectual property, that's the owner of the game, its IP, to the Dutch basement-dwelling ATVI. That's how ATVI, a company with no employees, so this is literally an empty basement in Holland, no employees, but they own all Activision Blizzard's IP, whose management lives in Bermuda, which just coincidentally happens to be a tax haven, was able to receive some 4.3 billion euros in royalties and turn a profit of 2.3 billion euros between 2009 and 2014. Profits on which Activision Blizzard paid precisely zero in tax. All this is possible because the American and Dutch tax authorities see two different things when they look at CV. The Dutch IRS says that CV owns tax in the United States, and the United States IRS says that CV owns tax in the Netherlands because of where the IP is situated. The result, the company occupies a fiscal no man's land and it doesn't pay tax anywhere. Legalized tax scamming. So when you, and the reason why another reason why I wanted to do this video is because I've seen a couple of, how can I put this in a nice way? Naive ex-employees of Blizzard Entertainment who continue to sing their praises because they are in a dream world that they actually give a shit about that employee or ever did, and they never did. Otherwise, they'd never let them go because, of course, this is a company that's paying zero tax. It's giving it every single red cent that it earns to its shareholders, and it's screwing over gamers at every single given opportunity. And you just have to look at Black Ops 4 to see how that is just a pit, an egregious pit of microtransactions and monetizations and just ways to try and scam people out of cash. You think that they have just announced, just a couple of months prior, record year 2018, historic year. Those are Bobby B's own words. They follow it up in the same conversation by sacking 800 people, and then they didn't pay a single penny in tax, writing off millions, tens of millions in stock options and R&D for stuff which doesn't work. So it is absolutely no lie whatsoever that you, if you're working, if you're paying taxes, and myself, we pay more tax than Activision Blizzard. We contribute more to society, to the well-being of our own countries, to the running of our own countries, than Activision Blizzard do. And if you ever want to defend this company, you're on your own. Because I think now we've sunk to the deepest pits when it comes to Activision Blizzard. It really does. You don't need to have a legalized tax scam to do the right thing. You don't have that as an excuse to say, well, look, it's legal, you know, other companies are doing it. We're talking about the infrastructures of your own countries, contributing towards your own countries, paying what is due so your own countries can function. But they're not bothered about that. They're only bothered about paying themselves and their shareholders. It's just lost. It's lost. And I don't know what else to say because it's just the most disgusting thing. So there you go, folks. Me, single Heel versus Babyface, pays more tax than Activision Blizzard. And so do you. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.